everybody, it's me again. And I was thinking about how when we're in Casa Lake together, there are often times where we have lunch together and then we go outside and play together. And then when we come inside, those of us who are still awake kind of just have some time to lounge around and relax. And I read a chapter book. And even though we're not in Casa Lake together right now, I thought it might be kind of nice if we could read one chapter together this way. And I have a book here that I was thinking about reading to you this spring anyway. The book is The Trumpet of the Swan by E.B. White. And I was going to read this to you in Casa Lake, but since we're not in Casa Lake, I was thinking I could just read chapter 1 to you today. And then tomorrow I'll read chapter 2, and the next day I'll read chapter 3, and we'll just keep going like this on video as long as we're at home or until we're back together in Casa Lake, and then we can finish the book when we're all together in person. So either way, you'll get to hear one chapter a day, and so I will read it to you this way. The other thing I want to tell you about is the light in this room is not as good as the light in Casa Lake. So I am going to need my glasses to read to you today. It might look a little strange, but I can't read without them. So I'm going to put them on right now. And I'm going to open up the book to chapter 1. Chapter 1 is called Sam. And there's a picture of Sam right there. I hope you can all see him. And I'm going to try to read really loudly so that you can hear me through this recording. Walking back to camp through the swamp, Sam wondered whether to tell his father what he had seen. I know one thing, he said. I am going back to that little pond again tomorrow, and I'd like to go alone. If I tell my father what I saw today, he will want to go with me. I'm not sure that's a very good idea. Sam was 11. His last name was Beaver. He was strong for his age, and he had dark hair and dark eyes. Sam liked to walk quietly, putting one foot straight in front of the other and making very little noise. The swamp through which he was traveling was a wild place. There was no trail, and it was boggy underfoot, which made difficult for walking. Every 4 or 5 minutes, Sam took out his compass and checked his course to make sure he was headed in a westerly direction. Canada is a big place. Much of it is wilderness. To get lost in the woods of Canada would be a very serious matter indeed. As he trudged on, the boy's mind was full of the wonder of what he had seen. Not many people in the world have ever seen the nest of a trumpeter swan. Sam had found one on the lonely pond on this day in the spring. He had seen the 2 great white birds with their long white necks and black bills. Nothing he had ever seen before in all his life made him feel quite the way he felt on that wild little pond in the presence of those 2 enormous swans. They were so much bigger than any bird he had ever seen before. The nest was big too, a mound of sticks and grasses. The female was sitting on eggs, and the male glided slowly back and forth, guarding her. When Sam reached the camp, tired and hungry, he found his father frying a couple of fish. "Where have you been?" said Mr. Beaver. "Just exploring," said Sam. "I walked over to a pond about 1.5 miles from here. It's the one we can see from the air when we're coming in. It isn't much of a place, nowhere near as big as the lake we're on right now." "Did you see anything over there?" asked his father. said Sam. It's a swampy pond with a lot of reeds and cattails. I don't think it would be very good for fishing. And it's hard to get to. You have to cross a swamp. Did you see anything? Asked Mr. Beaver. I saw a muskrat, said Sam, and a few red-winged blackbirds. Mr. Beaver looked up from the wood stove where he was frying fat fish in the pan. Sam, he said, I know you like to go exploring, but don't forget these woods and marshes are not like the country around home in Montana. If you ever go back to that pond again, be careful you don't get lost. I don't like you crossing the swamps. They're treacherous. You could step into a soggy place and get bogged down, and there wouldn't be anybody there to pull you out. I'll be careful, I promise, said Sam. He knew perfectly well he would be going back to that pond where the swans were, and he had no intention of getting lost in the woods. He felt relieved that he had not told his father about seeing the swans, but he felt strange about it too. Sam was not a sneaky child, but he was odd in one respect. He liked to keep things to himself, and he liked being alone, especially when he was in nature. He enjoyed the life on his father's cattle ranch in the sweetgrass country of Montana. He loved his mother. He loved Duke, his pony. And he loved riding on the range. He loved watching the guests who came to board at the Beavers' ranch every summer. But the thing he enjoyed most in life was these camping trips in Canada with his father. Mrs. Beaver didn't care for camping, so she seldom went along. It was usually just Sam and his father, Mr. Beaver. They would motor to the border and cross into Canada. There, Mr. Beaver would hire a bush pilot to fly them to the lake where his camp was for a few days of fishing and relaxing and exploring. Mr. Beaver did most of the fishing and relaxing. Sam did the exploring. And then the pilot would return and take them back home. The pilot's name was Shorty. They would hear the sound of his motor and they would run out of the tent and wave and watch him glide down onto the lake and taxi his plane to the dock. These were the pleasantest days of Sam's life. These days in the woods, far from everywhere, no cars, no roads, no people, no noise, no school, no homework, no problems, except the problem of getting lost. And, of course, the problem of what he was going to be when he grew up. Every child has that problem. I'm going to show you. There is one picture on this page. And here it is. There's Mr. Beaver, and over here is Sam. You can see their tent. After dinner that evening, Sam and his father sat for a while on the porch. Sam was reading a bird book. "Dad," said Sam, "do you think we'll be coming back to camp again about a month from now? I mean, like in about 35 days or something like that." "I guess so," said Mr. Beaver. "I certainly hope so, but why 35 days? What's so special about 35 days? "Oh, nothing," said Sam. I just thought it might be very nice to come back here in 35 days. "That's the craziest thing I've ever heard of," said Mr. Beaver. "It's nice to come back here all the time." Sam went into the tent. He knew a lot about birds, and he knew it would take the swan about 35 days to hatch her eggs. He hoped that he could be back at the pond to see the young ones when they came out of the eggs. Sam kept a diary, a day book about his life. It was just a cheap notebook that was always next to his bed. Every night before he went to sleep, he would write in the book. He wrote about things he had done, things he had seen, thoughts he had had. Sometimes he drew a picture. He always ended the day by asking himself a question, so he would have something to think about while he was falling asleep. On the day he found the swan's nest, this is what Sam wrote in his diary. I saw a pair of trumpeter swans today on a small pond east of camp. The female has a nest with eggs in it. I saw 3, but I'm going to put 4 in my drawing. I think she was laying on another one. This is the greatest discovery I have ever made in my life. I didn't tell my dad. My bird book says that baby swans are called cygnets. I am going back tomorrow to visit the great swans again. I heard a fox bark today. Why does a fox bark? Is it because he is mad, or worried, or hungry? Or is it sending a message to another fox? Why does a fox bark? Sam closed his notebook, put on his pajamas, and crawled into his bunk. He laid there with his eyes closed, wondering why a fox barks. In a few minutes, he was asleep. That's the end of the chapter. And tomorrow we will read chapter 2 called The Pond. There it is. And I'm looking forward to it already. Miss you guys so much. See you tomorrow.